Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. I'm your host, Hannah MacDonald, and I'll be bookending the conversation with some of the most exciting voices from the bookish world. Hello and welcome to our June book club episode. This month, I invited you all to join me in reading The Leveret by Anna Goldreich. The Leveret tells the story of Claire and Phoebe as they navigate life after the loss of their baby. They decide to leave their home in the city and move into Phoebe's granny's cottage in the countryside in the hope of a new beginning. Phoebe loses herself in work at her family's farm, and Claire loses herself in this house and the nature surrounding it, when soon enough she comes across something that she believes to be a solution to all of the pain. The Leveret is both a tender love story and a raw and moving exploration of grief, and it's published by Hamish Hamilton, and if you're yet to read it, you can buy a copy via the link in our show notes. Author of The Leveret, Anna Goldreich, is a writer based in Norwich. She holds a creative writing prose fiction MA from the University of East Anglia and was shortlisted for the Bridport Short Story Prize 2022. She's also the co-founder of Queer Norfolk. Her debut, The Leveret, has been selected as a BBC Radio 2 book club pick and was listed as one of the most anticipated books of the year by Sunday Times Style and Glamour. And here to discuss it with me, welcome Anna to A Pair of Bookends, and welcome to your cat.
I'm so sorry.
Please don't be sorry. Who is this?
This is Luna.
Hi,
We've got three
Luna.
cats. We've got Luna, who's the little black one. We've got Olive, who's a ginger girl, and then Colin, who our neighbor has described as a discarded jumper.
Oh
So he's
my
just
God.
like he's like a mop on the floor in the garden.
That is so cute. Luna gets a mention in your acknowledgements.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's the clingiest cat in the world. As soon as she hears me, like, I think she was asleep and she must have heard something happening downstairs, and she was like, "Oh, this must be something that I need to join in with."
Yes. She needs
Um,
to make sure everyone knows who she is. She's like,
yeah,
yes, I am the person
exactly.
that's mentioned in the acknowledgements. Thank you, everyone. I was the reason this book was written.
Yeah.
What an absolute diva. Well, I hope she enjoys joining. Is this her first podcast?
Yeah, it's her first podcast.
Amazing. Welcome, Luna.
Oh.
She is my baby.
Oh, she's so silly. She's teeny tiny, and I found her. I've only had her for a few years, but she's quite elderly. She's an old lady, and I found her when I was looking for a bike on Gumtree, and it was just like the first page on Gumtree in Norwich. It was just like this picture, really bad, grainy picture of like a black cat. So she just looked like a small kind of void, and it was just like the description was like, "Luna needs a new home. Please help." And I was just like, oh my God, this is the saddest thing I've ever seen. I just felt so sorry for her. And we went to the house, and it was this woman, and she had a toddler, and she also had this huge dog, and it was like disturbingly clean. And Luna even smelt like cleaning products. It was all very
Oh,
strange. And we were there for kind of 20 minutes, and the woman like brought out her basket and was just like, "So you're gonna take her then?" And we were like, "I guess so."
oh my
It was
God.
all really strange. And when she'd, I guess, grown up with, because the woman had had her since she was like a little kitten, and she'd grown up with floorboards. So when she came to my flat at the time, she was like not used, I guess, to carpet. So she was kind of kept
Mm.
sticking to the carpets with her claws.
Oh,
It was all very strange, but she's much better now.
bless her. I feel terrible now. I've locked our two cats out of the room. I mean, they are asleep in like different parts of the house, but I have no doubt that the youngest cat, Cleo, will try and poke her paws
Aw.
underneath the door at some point. My other cat, Rhubarb, isn't as bothered.
Rhubarb.
She'll just kind of stroll in and out. She's not bothered, but Cleo is like wants to be the center of attention. So,
Aw.
um, I would talk about cats all day, so I
Yeah.
will pull back and go
Yes,
back
sorry.
onto your book. No, I'm terrible. I will genuinely speak to you for about an hour. So I do like to start these episodes by asking what you're currently reading. So could you tell us?
Yes, I am currently reading a Pizza Hut, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and a Pizza Hut by
I've seen
Hannah
this.
Levine.
Such a great title.
Yeah, it's a really good title. Although, like, it's just stuck in my head at the moment. I keep like it's going round and round and round.
I would just be singing that to myself all the time.
That's what's been happening. It's very frustrating.
So, what is the premise of that book?
So it's a book about kind of quite a sort of strange experimental book, kind of about like young queer people growing up in Watford, and it's sort of yeah about their like relationships with each other and the kind of I guess the monotony of kind of working and being young in a place that feels like it's sort of you're not really going anywhere.
I really like the
And
sound of this.
yeah, it's really, really good. It's coming out, it's being published on the 11th of June, and the writer is with Cypher Press, and the writer is a very cool and lovely and interesting person. And
I
yeah,
will be adding that to my list then.
yeah,
But
please
I
do.
would definitely find myself singing that non-stop.
Yeah,
I think it's part and parcel of it. As soon as you see that, you have to.
yeah.
But let's get into your book. Could you tell us how the idea for the Leveret first came to you?
Yeah, it kind of it started as a short story where I was kind of just interested in and exploring the process of like sort of ICI and IVF with lesbian couples, and the short story was just about a couple and the woman who is being sort of impregnated. It's sort of about like the strangeness and the kind of coldness of the trying to figure out like when the best time is, and then feeling kind of being like, injected with semen from someone that you don't know, or I mean, a lot of people do it with people that they do know. But so yeah, it started as a short story about that. And then it kind of developed into the idea of kind of loss, and I've always been really really interested in relationships that people have with animals and the way that we can kind of project a lot of feelings and parts of ourselves onto the animals. And I guess that's where Isla came in, who is the leveret in the title. And at the time, I think it was lockdown when or like the end of lockdown, and I was doing loads of reading about, I just bought this big like Reader's Digest folklore and myths of the British Isles or something, and it was a really huge book, and I was reading all of this stuff about hares and their kind of parts that they play in a lot of like British folklore. And then I started reading about this woman who, and it was in this book, and it was a woman who had apparently been giving birth to rabbits. But really, it's a very like long and complex story. And there is actually a really wonderful book that was published by Gally Beggar, and I cannot remember the name of the book, but it's all about this story. And I will try and figure out what the name of this book is.
It's a Galley Beggar, and
Yeah, it's a
then
Gally Beggar one, and it's
this is the woman giving birth to
yeah, to rabbits.
rabbits. Okay, let's see.
It should come up.
Is it Mary and the Rabbit Dream
Yes, yeah, that's it.
by Naomi Kostaki? Is that?
Yeah, I don't know if
Don't know
I
if I
did say her
pronounced her
name.
name right, but yeah, Mary and the Rabbit Dream. Intriguing. The story of women giving
Yeah,
birth to
so
rabbits.
and so that was a fantastic book. And yeah, I don't know, it just made me think about yeah, animals. And also I had this budgie at the time. It was like before I had my cats, and I was doing a lot of like volunteering at animal rescues and stuff. And I someone had brought in a budgie that they'd found on top of a bin in a cardboard box, and this budgie just became like my whole life, and I was obsessed with him. And I was yeah, just he was just like my kind of just felt like and then he felt like kind of an extension of myself. And so then I was just writing about, I was just interested in the way that we can do that sometimes with animals, that particularly animals that come into our lives kind of almost by themselves, animals that we haven't sought out. Yeah.
I think it is a really beautiful thing that sometimes animals kind of are in our lives at the point that we really need them.
Yeah.
And I find it funny that you mentioned like that we kind of sometimes project onto them. And I've probably definitely done that with my cats. I've had
Mhm.
cats since I was a child, so I really do love them. And my cat Rhubarb, we adopted her in it's like the third lockdown. It was like 2021 where it was
Mm,
like really brutal, and my mental health wasn't at its best at that point. I was
yeah.
quite poorly, and my boyfriend basically was like, we tried every kind of avenue of like trying to help me. And
Mm,
my boyfriend was like, "You've always wanted us to to have a cat, let's adopt one. And he really hoped that that would help, and it did
Mm.
help me. It was amazing how much it helped.
Yeah.
And it's really funny, how there's a kind of conversation around us choosing pets that are sort of similar to us. And we adopted Rhubarb, and she was a really anxious cat. Bless her, she'd been
Mm.
kept in this horrible environment when the rescue team had found her. There was like her and 17 other kittens that were kept in this
Oh,
garage, and she was really frightened when we first got her, and we
yeah.
had to just kind of leave her to it, and
Mm.
put her things out and just sort of let her explore the flat and see, when she was ready to come to us. But it's amazing how, caring for her and sort of giving her time and respecting her boundaries and stuff, how much that helped me and myself.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
definitely.
think it was really beautiful reading this book and seeing, how healing that can actually be.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that your character Claire gets quite absorbed by that role that she
Yeah.
takes on.
Yeah, and I think I'm always, particularly with wild animals, always really interested in the way that how good is it for these animals to have this, you have this kind of like relationship with them, and then at what point do you need to let go of that to kind of do the best thing for yourself and for the animals?
I also really loved, there's a moment where Phoebe is really finds it quite insufferable the way that Claire is talking to
Mm.
the leveret, and it just really made me laugh because I was like, what, like we do speak to our
Yeah.
pets in such a
It's-
specific way.
Yeah.
Like my boyfriend is always laughing at the songs that I make up that I sing to them. He's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing?
It's so strange, isn't it? Like, and you sort of do it in your home, and then I don't know, I guess people with dogs kind of do it outside of their home. You do hear people like talking like that with dogs, and I always find that so funny when you're like in the street. And I love it. I think it's great, but yeah, when you're in the street and you can kind of hear someone like baby talking with their dog, and like I do that in the privacy of my own home with a cat.
Why are we all so weird about our
I
pets?
don't
So silly. I love it. I do want
know.
to ask you, sorry, about your protagonist. So we have Claire and we have Phoebe, and
Yeah.
you write their sections in totally different styles, which I thought was really cool, and I really enjoyed because even, down to the way the words are formatted on the page are different. And I wondered how you carved out their individual voices and why you wanted to explore both of their
Mm.
perspectives.
So I started writing the book thinking like this is going to be like from two different perspectives. And then I really, really struggled to write Phoebe's sections. I was like really deep into the Claire sections. I found it really hard to leave them alone. And the Claire sections, I think, are really like heavy kind of chunks of text, and they're very like meandering and kind of blocky. And
Yeah.
I think when I was writing them, they were more blocky and like more sort of like, I mean, they definitely were like like editing, just like big, ridiculous chunks of like darkness on the page. And I finished the book and I went to my agent and I was saying, like, there's something wrong with it. It feels really wrong and like unbalanced and like strange. And she was like, well, maybe you should try writing the Phoebe sections back in. And so I did. And I was really like trying to experiment with how to make it sort of like so different to the Claire sections, and so kind of like a really different reading experience, because I do think I love reading a book that's like dense and kind of intense and like very like voice driven, but it does get exhausting.
Mm.
I think it makes your eyes tired, it makes your brain tired, and I really wanted the Phoebe sections to really feel like a different kind of person who's not so, I guess, self-absorbed and not so, and is more kind of in the world. And I think if you're more in the world, you have less of the sort of long, weird internal monologue
Mhm.
like Claire does. I like to think that Phoebe's kind of thoughts are like spliced in with the world and the things that she's experiencing and the things that she's kind of doing and seeing. And so, yeah, I guess I just wanted them to feel really different. And I wanted them to feel like two different people, but also for the reader for those to feel like two very different experiences, two really different experiences of grief as well.
Yeah.
I think some people really like fall into their grief and it becomes
Mm.
this like very consuming. And some people, I think, try and like push it away and it will try and like find its way in like drips and drabs and things like that. But really, you're just trying to, yeah, get on with your life, I guess.
Yeah, grief is a different experience, as you said, for everyone. But I do think you write about grief so beautifully, and I really loved the sort of nuance of it, and that there's moments where Phoebe sort of reflects on how guilty she feels for the pain that she's experiencing, and she's like, well, it was Claire's sort of body that this happened to, and that's obviously an entirely different experience for her, and she feels guilty at times for getting angry with Claire for feeling anger towards. She doesn't necessarily like shout at her or anything, but she feels a certain type
Mm.
of way towards Claire for the way she's dealing with things, and she feels guilty for that. Tell us about what's going on for Phoebe in those moments.
I guess it's that sort of thing where you're seeing someone else. I suppose it's that slight like misattunement that you can sometimes get with your partner where you both are having quite different ways of processing
Mhm.
something. And I think, I mean, for me, I almost feel kind of angry. I sometimes find myself feeling quite angry that things aren't lining up in the way that I feel like they should.
Mhm.
I think for Phoebe, there's such a world that she can't access. And I think almost the kind of Claire, like having this thing happen to her body is kind of a thing that's like sort of split them apart or kind of created like a difference in them where they've always been able to share a lot of things in their relationship and they've been able to share experiences. This is something that Phoebe can't access. And I think that can make people feel very frustrated when they're
Yeah.
trying to understand someone and that person is like so lost and inaccessible. And I think also just like it's hard for both people to lose a baby. And I think it just brings up so many like complex feelings about like who has the right to feel like what. And I think also, I mean, sorry, I'm quite rambly. In a
No.
queer relationship, I think that there's sometimes people can fall into more of a like heteronormative framework, and you have someone like Phoebe who naturally kind of leans more towards like a more like butch kind of person and then is maybe expected to behave in a way that's more traditionally masculine, and that feels very confusing. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot going on for Phoebe. I think she's very kind of, I think she's quite closed off, but I think she has a lot of feelings and a lot of kind of confusion, and there's like a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that really answered the
No, it
question.
it does, it does. I was really interested actually in Phoebe's thoughts on how gendered motherhood is,
Yeah.
and it's something that I've not really sort of had a deep think about before this book.
Mm,
And I also don't know if I've ever seen or read the experience of baby loss from the perspective of a queer
mm,
relationship. I don't think it's something that we hear about very often. And I wondered, you're navigating an incredibly sensitive topic with baby loss, and it's understandably sensitive and it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to talk about, and it's still strangely quite taboo.
mm.
How did you kind of approach writing about baby loss?
I think I I think it's such a common thing that's so just not spoken about.
No.
It's kind of shocking how common it is. Like all through my writing of this book, anytime I was talking to people about it, almost everyone who had sort of tried to, who kind of had, so many people have had fertility issues and have dealt with miscarriage and loss. And I don't think I quite realized how many people had. So I think the book almost and has ended up being this kind of amalgamation of all of these different conversations and experiences that I've sort of, yeah, that have people have kind of given me and spoken to me about. And I think different people have quite different feelings towards it. And I think some people seem to be able to just continue, especially like with a miscarriage, some people can continue having like trying to have a baby, and for some people it really just tears you apart. And it's like I was speaking to this woman the other day, and she was quite elderly, and she was talking about how when she was trying to get pregnant and she had lost two of her babies, how people weren't kind of thinking that it was that she was losing a baby. It was kind of like a almost like a bump in the road. And she was
Mm.
just saying that she felt very isolated and just like no one was listening to her grief.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, yeah, I really wanted the book to show how people do try to understand and people do try to, like, people aren't meaning to be cruel, but I think it's with all grief. It's a huge thing for the person who's feeling it. It's like the biggest thing in the world. Your whole life is completely torn apart, and for everyone else around you, it's kind of on the periphery, and you just have
Mm.
to, they just carry on with their lives and stuff. And it feels so strange and so isolating to be like, well, this is like the greatest tragedy that's ever happened to me, and it should be the greatest tragedy that's ever happened to anyone. It's
Yeah.
so huge, it's so like all encompassing, and everyone else is just living their lives as if this awful, awful thing hasn't happened. And you know, yeah, I think it's a funny thing. I think grief really like freezes you. It kind of puts you and pulls you into a place that is, yeah, just very lonely and
Yeah.
strange. And I just really wanted the book to capture how it kind of takes hold of individuals, puts
Yeah,
them
it's
in
like all
places.
consuming, isn't it? And you really do lean into the sort of strangeness of it, which I really loved that you did that. And I mean, going back to what I was saying about Phoebe's sort of thoughts on how gendered motherhood is, they do face a fair amount of ignorance from various people, including, this is before the loss, when they were trying for a baby, they have comments from, I think it's Claire's mum, who says something along the lines of, a child needs a dad. And Claire's kind of like, well, my dad disappeared, so.
Mm.
And it's still so strange to me that people will make those comments. I'm like, no, a child needs a loving
Yeah.
home. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what what the dynamic is at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
definitely.
just need love. So I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about their sort of relationships with their families, and how this maybe plays into their ideas of parenting.
Yeah, I think I really wanted them both to come from families where there was love there. It wasn't all kind of, I think we all often get like narratives of like queer people coming from these like very sort of hateful families, or them
Yeah.
being really like ostracized and isolated. And I didn't want Claire or Phoebe to have sort of to have that. I mean, I guess for Phoebe it's a little bit more complex. I think always kind of families in, or often families in rural settings, and kind of growing up in like a rural setting, there's going to be like more tension there
Mm,
than if you grow up sort of in a city.
yeah.
So I did want there to be like, yeah, it's a little bit more complex for Phoebe. I think her parents love her a lot, but maybe don't quite understand, or maybe feel a little bit self-conscious about
Hmm.
having a queer child. And then with Claire's parents, her mum and stepdad, I just wanted them to be kind of, I think overall like accepting of her queerness, but with, I think there is, people can be really accepting while still holding quite specific kind of ideas of like what the family looks like and what is kind of a normal or natural thing. I think, yeah, I think with Claire's mum, it feels like they have quite a complex relationship. There's a lot of like push and pull. Her mum is kind of broadly accepting and loving, but also is kind of quite stuck in her way of moving through the world and
Hmm.
viewing the world. And maybe that's slightly counter to Claire's kind of life and experiences.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I really didn't want them to both come from really like hateful,
Yeah.
like nasty families. I wanted there to be, and I think, yeah, I wanted there to be like some support from the families. And I think that their families, although they do get things wrong quite a lot, they're both on both sides, they're both trying, they're trying to do what they feel like they should be doing, and maybe missing the mark a bit,
Yeah.
or maybe being like a little bit tone deaf, or a little bit, yeah, kind of not seeing quite what Claire or Phoebe wants them to see. But on the whole, they're not yeah, they're not cruel people. They're just people having their own lives and it being different to the lives of their children and stuff.
Yeah, and they do show up. They show up,
Yeah.
but probably more often than Claire and Phoebe would like.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like they're
They,
really trying, I feel like. I really like all the parents
yeah.
in the book. I don't yeah, they don't always get things right, but I think they are trying. And they're trying to understand and they're trying to do things in the way that they can. Sort of, I guess Claire's mum's always trying to be like, why don't you find a new job? Or like, come on, let's like figure out what to do to help you like move on with your life. And that's not the right thing for Claire, but for Claire's mum, maybe that's like how she's always kind of done it and experienced things. And yeah.
I just want the listeners to know that your cat Luna has just completely sat in front of you, and I feel like Luna's like, no, I'm actually the most important one here, Mum, not you.
It's true, she is.
I hear you're talking
Oh,
about. Oh, there we go.
there
She's
she
heading off.
goes.
She's heading off. She's over it now. I'd love to get to the leveret because I feel like there's so many questions I want to ask, but I want to ask about the leveret that Claire finds in the garden, and it sort of awakens something within her. Tell us about what inspired the leveret, and I do want to say for the listeners, if you haven't before Googled what a leveret looks like, or if you haven't seen one, please go and pause the podcast right now and go and search that image because it will change your life. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen, and I really want to see one in person now.
Mm, they're really cute.
They're so cute. But yeah, beyond that, could you tell us what inspired the leveret?
Yeah, I think she kind of came out of I mean, I've always had really like close relationships with all of the animals in my life, and I feel like they've always really I've almost times felt closer to them than I have to people. And
Hmm.
I think that there's something about an animal where when you're in kind of a state of such grief or such kind of unwell, when you're at the point where you're losing sort of the humanness, it's so much easier to meet an animal where you need to be met. I don't know if that makes sense. I think it's that thing of like they don't require you to explain why you're feeling a certain way or why
Hmm.
you're behaving a certain way or why you're kind of not doing certain things. They kind of just meet you where you are. And I think in that moment, Claire really needed an animal, or she just needed something to meet her and not ask her to explain herself or ask
Yeah.
her to kind of talk about things. The leveret kind of came out of that. Yeah, she was the sort of the entity or like the being that Claire like needed because she needed to be taken care of, or at least Claire felt that she needed to be taken care of, and she didn't really, and the only thing that she was kind of asking of Claire was kind of care. And sometimes that's the kind of the best, the easiest thing to give is
Hmm.
this kind of non-verbal care and love. And it was, I suppose, their relationship sort of very like loosely was inspired by my relationship with a little budgie that I had. I had a period of really, really, really like bad mental health. Like I kind of had got to a point where I was like kind of non-verbal. I was sort of moving in and out of like kind of these like slightly catatonic states.
Hmm.
And I was, yeah, so ill and so lost inside my brain. And part of the sort of beginnings of getting myself back to into life was that I had started because sometimes you get like kind of doctors and nurses and there are these like groups that you can go to where they put you in a room with a bunch of other people who are really unwell and they're like let's do some drawing together and stuff like that, so it's like kind of you have this like slow reintroduction into society, and I was just like I really don't want to do that. And so I started volunteering once a week at a wildlife rescue, and it was mostly just cleaning out the cages of baby seagulls, which was great. I loved the baby seagulls. Basically, someone brought in a little yellow budgie that they had found that had been left. They'd heard it cheeping and it had been left on top of a bin in a cardboard box.
No.
And the man who ran the rescue was like, would you like to take him home? Like, there's nowhere for him to go here. And I said, okay. So I took him home and we got like a little cage for him, and just completely, like, I was so out of it, out of everything. I was just gone, kind of. Had like my little routine of like going and cleaning out the seagulls, but otherwise I was just sort of a bit, yeah, gone, and stopped reading. I'd kind of forgotten how to read. I guess forgotten's the wrong word, but I stopped being able to like make sense of like
Yeah.
language and words, and then I started reading children's books to this budgie, because I was like, oh, budgies can learn to talk, and I'm gonna try and see if I can get him to like learn how to say words. He never did learn how to say words, but I started reading children's books to him, and then I started reading like more complex books, and then I just started reading again, and I would read out loud to the budgie, and it was just like me and him. His name was Yarrow, and we would
Yarrow.
just like hang out, and I would read to him, and he would fly around and sing little songs, and I kind of started like going out and getting branches and then attaching branches to the ceiling, and so it would feel more like, I don't know, and then he would just be hanging out. It was, yeah. And but then he was on his own. He was like a lone budgie, and budgies aren't supposed to be living on their own. They're really not. They're really social animals. And I guess like it was only afterwards that I started thinking about like the he really saved me, and I did save him in a way, but there was also this kind of cruelty to it where he wasn't living how he was supposed to be living. He
Yeah.
was supposed to be living with other birds, and instead he was living in a little flat, open plan flat in Brighton with me, and there was, yeah, just it wasn't right for him. It was the right thing for me, but it wasn't the right thing for him. And I
Yeah.
think if I'd been more well, I would have been able to see it. So I guess that's where Isla came from, is just the idea that you pour so much love and you can adore an animal so much, but they're never going to be able to tell you like this isn't what I need. They're
Yeah.
always going to be more vulnerable, and they're always going to need you to have more of an understanding of what they need than they can tell you, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah. I think, we can be very well-meaning
Yeah.
with animals, and it's really hard when you feel such a connection to them. But actually, like, you do need to understand their needs as well and respect their needs.
Yeah.
This is kind of unrelated, but it's my boyfriend often tells me off for feeling the need to pick up the cats and hold them all the time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Look, I want a cuddle." And he's like, well, the
Yeah.
cats don't. The
Yeah.
cats are like, get off.
Yeah, no, my
Let
my
them come
partner
to
is the
you.
same. She's always like wanting to, she picks up the two orange cats are her cats, and then from before we were together, and then Luna is my cat. And the other day she picked Luna up, and I was like, I wouldn't do that. She's like, but I want to cuddle. And then obviously Luna then scratched her. But it's like, yeah, it's so tempting to be like, oh, you're so small, I want to pick you up and have a cuddle, but that it's not, they're not really consenting to that.
No, no.
Like,
And cats will
yeah,
teach you boundaries.
yeah,
They'll be like, absolutely not, get
yeah,
off me, or I will scratch you.
yeah.
I do want to ask, because you've got so many gorgeous passages of like nature writing
Mm.
in this book, and I know that I said in the intro that you you are the founder of Queer
Yeah.
Birders, and I wondered, I'd love to know a bit about what that group is and
Mm.
whether that sort of plays into your ability to write about nature.
I think so. Queer Birders Norfolk is yeah, me and my partner and our lovely friend Rain. We all love birds, and we were talking one day a few years ago about how it can be really intimidating going into kind of birding spaces,
Mhm.
particularly places with like hides, because they're so the domain of like a very specific kind of older man, who has all of the gear, and has kind of his scopes and binoculars and stuff, and how it's kind of intimidating to be someone who loves birds and maybe doesn't have all of the money for all of the stuff.
Mhm.
And then we were like, well, let's just all go together. And then we were like, well, let's just make a group where other people can also all come with, and we'll all just go together and we'll all be kind of moral support for going into these spaces that feel like they're not for us. I mean, the natural world is for everyone, but I think sometimes as queer people we can sort of feel a little bit like, oh, maybe this isn't for us, especially when it's you're going into a space that's full of kind of older men. It's
Hmm.
that can be a little bit like, it's a little bit unsettling,
Yeah.
and we do get some eye rolls and things like that. But actually, like for the most part, I think people do quite like seeing groups of people. I don't know, it's a strange thing. Like we definitely get people who seem annoyed by our presence,
Why
but
are we gatekeeping nature?
I know, but it's
It's
so
so
gay kept.
weird.
It's really weird. But I always make an effort to try and talk to at least one strange old man with like a big telescope, like every time I go, because I just want them to, I want to be like, hello, we're people too, and
Yeah.
we want to come and like be involved, and we're interested in the things that you're interested in, and we're not here to take over your space. And yeah, and so we just do a lot of bird walks and yeah, bird watching, and it's really lovely and it's really nice. We get lots of people coming to the group who have maybe like never really had much interest in birds, but like
Mm.
being in green spaces with other queer people and are maybe like, want to like hear the birds or like see the birds through the binoculars and stuff, and it's really lovely and really nice. And so I think I did. There's a lot of like landscape in the book that's based on a lot of the places that I've walked through Norfolk. But I moved house a lot as a child, and one of the places that we lived in the country, and we lived in the town, and we lived in the city. And my most sort of special, like precious memories are being like a small child, just like running around in the countryside with the other children who lived in the houses. It was like really, really rural, and there was us, and there was like kind of just around the corner there was two little girls, and then across the road from us there were two little boys, so that we were kind of like a little pack of six children. And so I was definitely partly inspired by that, just feeling that you have of kind of like endlessness when you're walking, and like, how exciting it is just to be in a place that's so alive and yeah, full.
Yeah, I think it's so nice in an age where we're so sort of attached to our phones and technology
Mm,
to actually remember that there's a beautiful, beautiful world outside
yeah, definitely.
that we should explore. So yeah, I think it was really powerful to read these beautiful passages of nature and remember, to remember that.
Remember that it's for all of us. I think it is so like gate kept and owned by landowners, and obviously there's a lot of movements at the moment towards kind of right to roam and stuff like that. And I do just think just go there. Like what's the worst that can happen? If you want to go walk somewhere because
Yeah.
it's yours as much as it is anyone else's, even if someone's declaring some ownership over it. Like it's the natural world. It doesn't belong to anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I've just had to plug in my laptop. It wasn't charging, and for some reason my Mac won't let me charge and have my microphone plugged in at the same time. So that's
Oh.
great. You've just made me remember a moment in the book where I don't know which character it is. One of them talked about the idea of a queer utopia, and
Yeah.
I wondered what a queer utopia would look like for you.
It's like a conversation that I feel like I have with my friends all the time. I feel like it's like every queer person's dream to have like someone buys like a plot of land, and then we can all kind of have. I always think that the ideal for me is that we buy like a big plot of land, and then we each have kind of like a static home on the land, and we all live in our own little separate spaces so that we can kind of decorate them and have them just the way that we want them. And then there's kind of like a little communal one, and we all cook together, and we all like take care of animals and bees, and it's just like a nice kind of, and we have like yeah, music evenings and things like that. And I really just feel like it's always such like a classic. Everyone, all the queer people that I speak to, we all I think just have this the same idea of this kind of space that's kind of ours and in nature, but also has like the kind of the community, yeah, and the freedom to just be and to be somewhere that's like soft and green and good.
This sounds beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're always like, oh, and then we'll have like a big load of pigeons, and the pigeons will all come and live there, and we'll have like some pigs and goats and stuff, and no one will eat any of the animals. We'll just have them all as friends, and they'll all come and hang around, and yeah.
Queer Utopia would be actually really
Yeah.
lovely. To sort of finish up, I wanted to ask a couple of things. I'm going to sneak in a couple of quick fire things. One is that obviously with novels, for people that aren't in the sort of bookish world, I will just tell you that novels, and especially sort of debut novels, they are usually given comp titles or authors to draw readers in. I know you're aware of this, Anna. I'm just saying this for the benefit of the listeners. And your sort of comp authors are Julia Armfield, Sophie McIntosh, and Daisy Johnson. And I wondered if these specific authors have influenced your work at all, or rather, what are the authors that have influenced your work?
I think definitely Daisy Johnson, always been a huge, huge fan of her since her short story collection Fen.
I still need to read this. I've got it on my shelf.
It's so fantastic. And I think I love it so much because it's kind of, I mean, I don't live in the Fens, but in the kind of Norfolk and Suffolk that's so much fenland, and it's such a specific kind of landscape. And it's just like so sort of wonderful to see it represented in this short story collection. So yeah, I really adore that. I love her. I think otherwise Emma McBride is one of my like favorite authors who I think she really like I read her book A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing when I was just starting university, and it really like made me think like, oh, you can write a whole book with this sort of level of intensity and people will want to read it because it's such a strange and intense book. And it felt like such an exciting thing to read a book that made me feel so much throughout the entire kind of reading experience. And I was like, oh, I'd always thought that that was for short stories or for poetry, but she kind of showed that you could write a whole novel like that and people would still read it, even if it was like just like gut punch after gut punch. And Toni Morrison is probably one of my favorite writers ever, of course. Like, yeah, and I
Beloved
guess
is such a powerful
it's
novel.
it really is.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most, I really need to reread it. Like I think about it. It's one of the things I think about so much. There are those like specific kind of few chapters that are really like voice driven, kind of is really particular kind of really strange kind of writing. And I just thought, yeah, that she's a really special writer. She's a really incredible talent, and her books are beautiful and wonderful. And so I guess, yeah, her and Lucy Ellman. I don't know if you've ever read Ducks
I've not,
Newburyport.
no.
Oh my
I'm
God, that's
really
one.
intimidated by the size of it.
It's so worth it. I know it's huge, but it's such a fantastic book. Oh my God. I think that's like my most like recommended book that I will, it's always on, I'll be like, just read it. Because I know it's like a sort of, it's like a big tome and it's quite
Yeah.
like scary looking, but for me at least, I felt so devastated when it finished.
Oh, that says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it was so long, and it kind of it really, I don't know. Yeah, that's a fantastic book. I love it, and I would recommend it to anyone who doesn't mind reading over 1,000 pages of like essentially just one really long sentence.
It's quite a big thing at the moment. There's another book that has become big quite recently that is just one sentence, and I can't for the life of me think what it is.
Oh,
I feel like it was mentioned on the New York Times book
hmm.
review podcast. One sentence book. That's not going to give me anything, is it? The most famous single sentence book is Ducks Newburyport. It's not the one I'm looking for. It's the one we've just spoken about. Daniel Kraus, Angel Down.
Oh, I'm gonna
Called
write
Angel
that
Down.
down.
Yeah. It was spoken about on the Curious Readers podcast. They did like a deep dive on it, and I was very intrigued after listening to them talk about it. So yeah, that is. I'm gonna give Ducks Newbury. Is it Ducks Newburyport? Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm gonna give that a try.
do.
You've
It's
convinced
so good.
me.
It's so good. Yeah, it's amazing.
Amazing. Before I ask for your final recommendation, I like to ask debut authors what advice they would like to pass on to other debut authors.
I think my advice would be to just keep writing what you're writing. Like, stop flipping back and forth between different projects and just try and focus
I feel
on one.
attacked.
Yeah. I think it's the thing. Like, I think the thing that stops us from doing it is that we're like, well, maybe actually I'm interested in this as well. And then we just like flip-flop between things. And I really think just like force yourself to just finish the one thing. And then you can go back and do the other thing.
No, do you know what's funny is I've literally been trying. I'm halfway through writing my debut, and
Mm.
I'm like arranging meetings for a play that I've written. I'm like, let me see if I can get this off the ground. It's like, had I
Yeah.
finished the novel?
It,
Terrible.
it's always the way. I feel like everyone that I speak to who's like writing their debut, they're always like, well, and I'm also writing this other. And I'm just like, no, just write this one thing. I wouldn't have finished my book if I had an agent get in touch with me and she was like, oh, let me read the book. And I was like, oh, it's not finished. And she was like, let me just read what you have. So I sent her what I had, which was like half of a book. And she was like, it's great, finish it. And that was the only thing that made me finish it, was just someone else saying to me, like, finish it. And then you can go and write all the things you've ever wanted to write once you've done this
Yes.
one thing.
Just get the thing done.
Yeah.
I needed to hear that today, Anna. Thank you. But finally, I like to finish by asking for a recommendation. So, is there anything that you've been reading, watching, or listening to recently that you want to shout about?
Yeah, I want to shout about a book which I had been waiting for years and years, and it's finally here. And it's The Book of Birds by Jackie Morris and Robert McFarland, and it's the most gorgeous book. It's a Hamish Hamilton book, and it's been in the works for a really, really long time. I think like 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And I remember sort of seeing snippets of kind of little bits of illustration and knowing that it was being written, and it's finally here. And I was like, I saw the proof in the Penguin offices and I was like, oh my God, it's like it's a physical thing now. And this was kind of 6 months ago, and now the book is here and it's more beautiful than I even ever thought it would be. It's the most gorgeous, amazing book, all about birds, by the two people who wrote Lost Words. Don't know if you ever read that one.
No.
That's also a really fantastic book, all about the words that are being removed from the dictionary, kind of the nature words. And that's really beautiful too. But yeah, Book of Birds, so good.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Anna. I have absolutely loved chatting to you today. I've loved all of your recommendations. I've loved chatting to you about our cats. And I think, this book is a really, really beautiful
Oh,
novel that
thank
you should be
you.
so proud of. So thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for writing it. I know it's
Oh,
no small feat, and I'm so glad that we got to have you on the podcast. So thank you.
oh, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Good.
It's
And
been
where
great.
can the listeners find you online, if anywhere?
So I'm not a huge social media user, but I do have an Instagram page that I've been posting like a few book related things. I will try and post more things. It just makes me feel very strange.
That's fair.
Yeah, but that's Anna underscore E underscore Goldreich, which is Goldreich. And it's, yeah, mostly just book related things. And then sometimes like the odd picture of like a cat or like
We
the
love
garden,
cats and we love
some
books
frog
and
spawn. Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, we've got two ponds in our garden, and one of them had so much frog spawn in it. And now there's loads and loads of tadpoles.
Oh my
So many of them, they've
goodness.
just grown back legs, and I go out every single morning and I go and look at them. And my partner's a gardener and she keeps getting cross with me because I've worn away the grass through the middle of the garden.
Oh, I love it. No, please do share these things
Yeah.
because yeah, I think like with your book, it is a reminder that we need to stay connected to
Yeah,
nature. And
definitely.
I haven't felt this way since I read Small Hours by Bobby Palmer. Have you read that
I've not
one?
read that.
It's very, it really made me, I finished that book and I immediately went for a run through all the fields nearby my house because I was like, I want to be out in nature because it was just so many
Yeah.
beautiful passages and that's how your book made me feel.
No.
So thank you so much.
Mhm.
And for the listeners, the Leverett is out now when this episode goes live. So please go and grab yourselves a copy from your favorite bookshop or via the link in the show notes and go give Anna a follow. And do come and let me know your thoughts on the Leverett because I want to discuss it with more people. But lastly, thank you so much again, Anna. I've loved
Thank
this.
you.
And thank you, listeners, for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to review and subscribe. And if you want to give us a follow, you can do so at A Pair of Bookends Pod on Instagram and at A Pair of Bookends on TikTok. You can also find us for more content over on Patreon. Thank you again and goodbye.